I feel so large and I feel out of breath. I'm actually in my third trimester. Whew. Okay. Hey kids, I'm Selena from the city and beyond, and I am pregnant with my first child. Currently, I am filming a mini series about being pregnant and traveling. I'm gonna do one video per trimester. The goal of this channel is to inspire and teach full-time employees on how to navigate and best use their time off from work. And what better time to focus on than being pregnant and actually, expecting a baby and then having a baby. A lot of times, full-time employees think that traveling is over for them. And we wanted to start off strong with saying, hey, I traveled throughout my pregnancy and hopefully inspire you. I'm here as a friendly reminder that it doesn't have to be over just because you're pregnant or your partner is pregnant. Or your travel partner is pregnant. Maybe it's just a friend. But to offer some encouragement and to help you figure out what you're most comfortable with. With that said, I'm going to focus these videos on my experience traveling while pregnant, which can look very different from yours, so just keep that in mind. Let's go into traveling in your second trimester. I'm breathing so heavy. The trip I'm going to focus on for this trimester was my trip to Georgia, and we went to Savannah and Atlanta. We did a little road trip in between to get from one to the other. This was our baby moon. This served as our baby moon, half of it anyway, and the other half was just visiting family. Not just, but visiting family. A lot of the Savannah part was our baby moon, was very focused on, relaxing and splurging a little bit because it was going to be our last trip with just the two of us, which spoilers it ended up not being, but that was the focus. If you're interested in watching those videos, if they're out already, we'll link them below in the description. Let's start out with talking about the plane. So in the second trimester, the difference I could tell from the first trimester was that I definitely needed to get up more to stretch my back. I felt the need to get up, kind of stretch. I didn't do much walking around. I did have my compression socks on, but it did feel like I constantly needed to have something to alleviate the pain, bit of discomfort. I had a jacket with me, which I think I have a clip of, and I did put it in I forgot the name of it. My doula talks about it, but just let me see, this area, I'm leaning back, but this area here, I just put my jacket here to kind of put some pressure there. Well, I looked really wide. Well, I rolled it up. I didn't just put it back there, but I kind of folded it or rolled it up in a way so it kind of was a firm bulge to put in the middle of my back or the lower back to kind of press on it a little bit to kind of leave the discomfort. And then the other thing I did was just get up out of my seat, which I can also show you. Hold on, let me put my notes down. If this is your seat on the plane, the other thing I did, I didn't put my knee up because they're pretty high. So let's pretend it's higher, but I just leaned over and just let my back kind of sink. Not sink, it's not a good way. But just kind of let my belly hang and my back straighten flat. I mean, you can't do cat-cow on the plane, but you kind of can with the seat. I had the aisle seat, which honestly I kind of prefer normally, but I made sure that I had the aisle seat during this flight as well. I also have scoliosis, so I have back discomfort often. Well, not often, but just it's not uncommon for me to have back discomfort, so we fully expected that to happen during pregnancy, and I feel I ended up managing it pretty well and not having much back issues or discomforts often. But I think posture and doing things to like support your back. I have a belly band, but I did not bring it during these trips, which I'll talk about in the next video about the third trimester, because spoilers, I did take it for that one. The seatbelt fit fine. I was already mid second trimester by the time we went to Georgia. The beginning, I think it was like 20 weeks. I want to say I had a belly. Putting the seatbelt on was fine. I think the part that was more difficult was putting the tray down, which I found that after the first trimester was very difficult. So that's something, and if you're plus size, you definitely have to think about. If you're with someone, maybe put some stuff on their tray, or find ways to kind of like keep it so that you don't have to keep the tray out for too long. Because yeah, it's not fun having a liquid on a partially tilted tray because you can't put it all the way down. But that's something to also consider. If your belly is just a little bit bigger than usual and you're already plus size, it will be it will be a little difficult at 20 plus weeks to put the tray down. I think on one of our flights, the person in the middle wasn't there, so I just used that tray instead. But there's like different ways to get around it, or just hold the cup if it's not like a meal on a longer flight. Like, I think that's where it got a little rocky. Like England, if I would have had more of a belly, it would have been harder to like eat my dinner on the tray and stuff like that. And then the same thing for the third trimester. It would have been a little more difficult to have like our breakfast on the tray, which it was. Spoilers again. I'll talk about it more in the third video, but yeah, it was a little harder to like maneuver because I had this big old belly and then the tray just kind of like sat here. And there's really no way around that. If you're suffering from a lot of nausea, make sure that you have something with you, whether you brought it, like I think on one of the flights I brought a couple of plastic bags in case I didn't have a paper bag to throw out. But I wasn't that nauseous. It was just because fear of maybe it happening. You can be prepared and bring some with you if you already know that you're prone to nausea in your pregnancy. I would suggest bringing your own supplies in case you need it. Next point is baby moon. So if I had to choose between all 3 trimesters, baby moon in the second trimester is like so smart. But we made this our baby moon our last time traveling with just the 2 of us, and we just really made it special, a little luxury, very relaxing, and it really ended up being a really great time, because second trimester is like it's like a transitional trimester. There's the first trimester, which may have been really sucky to you, and then the third trimester where even if you have energy, moving around, like me just sitting here talking is a lot of effort. And so like the second trimester is a nice transition from the one to the other, where it's like things are a little bit better, you can do a little bit more, you can like really focus on like what's happening around you. So I would suggest that if you're planning on doing a baby moon and travel is really important to you and your partner, I would plan it during those weeks that's your second trimester for sure. At this point in most pregnancies, you feel a lot more energetic. And so it was so nice to, compared to my last video, please go back and watch the first trimester of traveling. I am happy to say that in the second trimester, you have so much more energy to enjoy your travels. So second trimester video. So right now I'm a little tired. And what's different from the first trimester to now, 20 weeks today, and I'm tired, but I can push through. Whereas when I was in my first trimester and in Europe, there was very little pushing through. Like it was really, really hard. So that's something to look forward to if you want to travel in your second trimester, for sure. I would still be flexible with your timing and your itinerary. For this Georgia trip, we had control over our schedule, but I was able to hike. Of course, take breaks and all that stuff. I hiked. I was able to walk around the MLK center that we went to. I was able to walk around both cities a little bit. So I feel like it's definitely a great time to take advantage of that energy. Again, if you're well, I would assume if you're watching this video, you're probably really into travel. That's a great time to take advantage of getting a little travel in, or a lot of travel in, before your baby is born. Especially if you want to do it close to what you usually do pre-pregnancy. I don't say you can't always do what you used to do. I just think it looks just a little different, which is why I'm saying be kind to yourself. Really pause for a second on that walk or whatever it is. Just maybe think for a few minutes, like, what would make this better? Like, so I'm more comfortable, or I can make it through. And just try to apply those things. You got that energy, use it during this time. It's a great time to travel while pregnant. Just make sure you're kind to yourself. I don't know why I made this a point, but I made snacks a point. I also got diagnosed with gestational diabetes maybe like 2 weeks before this trip. And then they decided to, yeah, I think like 2 weeks before. And then they decided to give me, or I think it was that I was already diagnosed and I was starting to track my blood sugars. And 2 weeks of tracking my blood sugars, the second week was right about when we were going to go to Georgia. I mention this because I ended up being prescribed insulin. And I wasn't really happy about this, of course. But the first night that I took my first shot of injection of insulin was the night before our flight to Savannah. So I mention this because snacking, gestational diabetes, the South, you can imagine, I was very, this could be a whole other video talking about this. Traveling with gestational diabetes was one of my biggest concerns because I didn't want to feel like I couldn't enjoy the trip. Not to say that a trip is only about food, but if you can't have like the staples of that country or city, it kind of sucks, and or trying new restaurants and not having to worry about all the ingredients that or additives that they're putting in it that might spike your blood sugar. And I was still navigating what my body could tolerate blood sugar wise. So it was pretty stressful going into it, but it actually ended up being okay. So going back to snacks, for most pregnancies, the suggested diet is like 3 meals a day and 2 snacks, but basically eat every 2 to 3 hours. So maybe sometimes that works out to being more. So what I would do, and I hope my doctors don't really ever watch this, but I think it's good advice or a guideline. I would be very, very mindful for those meals and like try to do my best. And I'd let the nutritionist know like before I would send my reports, because I would have to send them how my numbers were each week. So I told her I was on vacation that week, so she knew. But I would be very mindful for those 3 meals, and try to select something that not that I knew would be okay, but was my best effort at making sure my blood sugar didn't get too high. And honestly, I ended up not being that sensitive to carbohydrates during that time, is what I realized, but I didn't know yet. I was very mindful, tried to stick with the guidelines, but also enjoy myself, because I know a lot of women that got that get diagnosed with gestational diabetes. There's some videos on YouTube, like women talking about like feeling like they're always hungry. That was not me. I like that was not me at all, and that was not me on this trip. And I think with any pregnancy, not just if you have gestational diabetes, but just if you're trying to monitor what you eat and be good during your pregnancy, more so balance. I don't want to use the word good. Balance during your pregnancy more than maybe you have been in the past. I think that snacks was a nice way to indulge a little without like overdoing it each day. So like one day we had peach cobbler, we had ice cream with this, and that was my snack. AKA I didn't have to test my blood sugar afterward. Pairing activities with your snacks. So maybe getting that cone of ice cream and then walking around the area. Like these are the things that I feel really help you to feel like you're not too restricted during your pregnancy. And ultimately, snacks are also helpful with the fact that you're going to be more hungry sometimes. And so having snacks around, healthy snacks especially, so it's a no-brainer. You have a granola bar, no-brainer. It's cheese and crackers, stuff like that. I feel like I just talked too much. I gotta take a breath. Pro tip is take things. So like we would have, let's say, breakfast somewhere on our trip, and it'd be like, oh man, I really want to have blah 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 blah, like a side dish or something like that. Like one morning it was this really good biscuit, and Kamau had it with his breakfast, and I really wanted it, but I knew I couldn't have my breakfast and that biscuit, especially because of gestational diabetes. So I was like, I really want that biscuit, but I need to balance out and make sure I have this meal. But obviously, if it was just not pregnant Selena, I would have just been like, yeah, give me that biscuit too. I'm on vacation. What I did instead was I asked the waitress to get me that biscuit to go so I could have it later on in the day, and just focus on my like balanced breakfast. This biscuit was so good that we had to get one to go so I could have one as a snack. So delicious. And you'll probably devour them a lot less fast. Not as fast. You'll probably actually enjoy it a little bit more because you already had a meal or you walked around the block or whatever it is. So I hope that helps. And my last point is things that I packed for the second trimester. This one looks a little different from the last one, and then my next one is going to be a lot different. I actually might have like one packing video or packing for pregnancy video with all three, just so like I can kind of consolidate just packing. Packing for this time, looking at my notes, I still have my blood pressure machine, which I would definitely suggest, I think I said this in the last video, for the second and third trimester, especially the third trimester, even if you don't have like hypertension or anything like that in your pregnancy. It gives you peace of mind. It's a whole topic in itself, but preeclampsia is very real amongst people of color, and yeah, so I would say, if not your second trimester, but I took it because I already had pre-existing conditions. So I monitored my blood pressure the whole pregnancy. So that's on my packing list for every single trimester. But I would definitely say at least for the third trimester if you don't want to do it for the first two. So that's one item. Medication. Like I said earlier, I was prescribed insulin at this point, and I was also taking my blood sugar. So I needed my glucometer, which I have a love-hate relationship with. Blame the placenta. I never blamed my baby. I always blamed the placenta because that's actually what is causing this. And vitamins, so I still had my prenatals, Tums for more calcium. At this point, I had baby aspirin as well. I have like a little pill sorter. What I would also suggest, and I don't know if I mentioned this last time, if you have like a pill sorter of some sort, and you're going on your trip for less days than the days of the week that you have in the sorter, or you have like empty slots or something, put extra, not a ton extra, but put like at least a day or two more of your pills in your sorter than you need. Pro tip, because you never know, delayed flights, which totally helped, not pregnancy related. When we went to Jamaica last year, we had a canceled flight or delayed flight, and we had to stay in a hotel for an extra night. And I had extra medication because I do that. Because if you ever pack just the amount, you might drop some, which happens to me all the time, and probably more so when pregnant. I would say like about 1 to 2 days. That's all for this video. Congrats to all the expecting parents who are watching this. So happy that you're planning on traveling during your pregnancy. If you're curious how my traveling during my third trimester went, make sure that you subscribe and click the notification bell. And this is like the first couple of pregnancy videos that I'm doing. I've never really done this before. I hope that you guys are enjoying it. If you are, please click the like button to show me some encouragement. And I'll see you next time. Bye.